And, I just hope that it's not serious, and we'll know a little bit more today or tomorrow, I would imagine, after this MRI. And, it was just a matter of time. I think it was before he was going to get hurt. I had a number of Giant fans texting me yesterday during this game, and they were just livid and pissed off. And one Giant fan, who will remain nameless, basically said the Giants should be embarrassed for putting Daniel Jones out there with that offensive line. And I had to remind him, I said, do you know how many other teams in the league are dealing with the same thing that the Giants are dealing with in terms of injuries? The Jets had to deal with it yesterday out in Denver. I mean, where you got to put guys out there that you have on your roster, and you have no choice but to put them out there, especially when you start losing guys. And I've often told you a story about, me playing with my team in Philadelphia and losing 3 offensive linemen to start the game and putting a 6'6", 240-pound guy at right tackle against Reggie White. Not what you want. It's not exactly what you want. So I can certainly understand the situation that the Giants have found themselves in. And I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I really do. I mean, I wanted him to have a great season. I wanted him to live up to that contract the way that he earned the contract last year. But this team is an unmitigated disaster. We knew that they were going to lose. I felt like it was going to be, they were going to lose the bet too. They were not going to cover the bet, and it was 15-point loss, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse than that. They had actually +3 on the turnover side. They scored a defensive touchdown.
Yep.
And they still got blown out, and they still got boat raced by the Miami Dolphins, who put up over 550 yards of total offense on them. And again, I'm telling you, Wink Martindale, held a press conference last week. He was talking about, sleeping like a baby, waking up every 2 hours and going to the bathroom because he knew what he was walking into, because you could see it on tape. And everybody in the NFL knows that when you play against the Dolphins, this is what's going to happen to you if things get out of whack with you, especially defensively. So no good. Defensively, offensively, atrocious all across the board, even with them giving you a defensive touchdown and 3 turnovers. So I don't know where they go from here. I really don't. I mean, I don't have answers. I don't know if it's going to be Tyrod Taylor for the next few weeks. This is a team that looks leaderless to me. It looks like, they're just not very good. I've had other people saying, that when a team loses like this, they give up on their coach and things like that. And I'm like, they're just not that good. They don't have a great roster. I mean, what you saw was a great offensive roster from the Miami Dolphins yesterday is what you saw.
Oh, of course, and a coach who is innovative and someone who has continued to build since he's been there. And I cannot believe, I truly cannot believe that we're going through this again with another head coach. And I don't want to give up on Brian Daboll. I don't want to believe that he is another one of these guys like Ben McAdoo and Joe Judge. I don't want to believe that. I really don't. I don't think last year was a fluke. I don't think that he is a bad coach. But my Lord, this is the same stuff we have seen. I mean, it's history repeating itself. This is almost as bizarre as the Vinny Testaverde, Aaron Rodgers, Achilles thing. The fact that we've got another second-year disaster after we thought that the Giants got the right guy. Ben McAdoo, 11-5 playoffs. Next year, team quits on him. Gone. Joe Judge comes back, and I understand they were 6-10, but everybody loved Joe Judge after that first year. They're playing hard. They're in every game. They are going to turn the corner with this guy. They found the coach. He's fired after the next year. Brian Daboll comes in. Playoffs. Not only playoffs, they win a playoff game. They're in the divisionals. They're a win away from the championship game. Next year, they're done in October, and they're one of the worst teams in football. It's crazy. I mean, it's depressing. And I mean, we talk about the Jets being cursed or selling Joe Namath selling his soul to the devil. It's almost like the 2 championship runs that the Giants had in 7 and 11. And now they're paying for it now with this stuff. It's like you guys got your moments, and now you got to suffer through this garbage.
You know what? The problem is, this is why, like last year, it was great that Brian Daboll got this team to the playoffs, but with the playoffs comes expectations and comes a much more difficult schedule, especially to start the season. The Giants' schedule has not been easy, and it's not going to get any easier here over the next couple of weeks. But all I know is that playoff run last year, while it was great and it was fun and it was great to be a part of, basically, kind of hid whatever problems the Giants were having, and then forced them to spend money on players that they probably wouldn't have done had they not made the playoffs. It's like one thing turns into another, and then turns into another, and then a decision has to be made. And I don't know where they go from here. It's interesting. I was doing my WEEI call this morning. You think we got it bad here? The Patriots just lost back-to-back games, the worst losses in Bill Belichick's history.
Yeah.
And Mac Jones looks like he's completely lost. So I'm like, I guess misery loves company. But the point being is I didn't have an answer. I don't know. What does Bill Belichick do? Like, what does Brian Daboll do when he walks into that locker room? And I've been on bad teams like this. I mean, really bad teams. And for a veteran player like I was back when I played for the Jets, I mean, it was misery going to work. And I didn't want to listen to the coaches, because everything that they were saying wasn't working. And I'm like, I don't trust those guys that are teaching me. How the hell can I trust them when I'm getting my ass kicked week in and week out?
I mean, and this thing can spiral out of control, especially with a football team. And this is what we saw with Ben McAdoo. I mean, that defense essentially quit. I was guys, what was it? Jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins was like quitting the team in the middle of practice. I mean, these things can spiral so out of control, and they're going to get the Buffalo Bills off a bad loss next week. And I understand they've got their own issues, but I mean, the Bills are going to be heavily favored in that game. And if they play poorly again, I would be very surprised. But it's ugly, man. It really is. And you know what? The scariest thing for me, if you were the Giants, is can you believe in their general manager with the way that Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal are playing?
All right, so I'm glad you brought this up. There was just, obviously, everybody has seen the play. It's the play where Wilkins, the defensive end for the Miami Dolphins, is outside of Evan Neal. Mm-hmm. He's got his hand on the ground.
Yep.
Evan Neal's your right tackle.
Yep.
Your job in the pass protection is to block the guy that has his hand in the dirt. It doesn't get much simpler than that. There should be no confusion whatsoever. The ball is snapped. And for some reason, Evan Neal takes a step to his left, down towards the guard. Wilkins comes around the end. Nobody touches him. And he goes back there and just absolutely derails Daniel Jones. I'm sitting next to J.J. Watt, and I said, do you see this? And then he pulled it up on, he had his NFL Plus app or something. He pulled it up, and he goes, you mean this? I'm like, yeah. And I said, how many sacks do you think you could have against this? And he goes, Boomer, if they don't block me, I got 10 sacks in a game. I mean, there is no explanation.
It's time to play some tag.
Right. There's no explanation for why a right tackle, other than he just doesn't know what he's doing. And if he doesn't know what he's doing, then he is a complete and utter problem for the quarterback. Maybe he needs to be moved into guard or something. I cannot explain the whiff. I mean, it's the guy that went to Alabama. This was a guy that was a high pick. This was a guy that had a good combine. This was a guy that probably came highly recommended by Nick Saban. I mean, how does this guy not know what he's doing? And how does he, all you have to do, like if you're a right tackle, it's not that hard. Even JJ said to me, it's not that hard, Boomer. You got him, he's got you. That's your battle.
I mean, there are offensive linemen in high school that may not be able to block that guy, but would know that they had to block that guy.
They would get in front of him, and then he would steamroll him.
Like, this is just the easy thing. Like, okay, this is the guy that I have to block.
I mean, that is so bizarre to me that a player, 2 years in, does not know what his responsibilities are. Now, it could be a learning deficiency. It could be a million things. I don't know really what it is. A lack of concentration. I don't know what they're being taught over there. I'm assuming that, most offensive line coaches are really, really detailed. I mean, they are the most detailed of all the coaches because they have to deal with 5 different guys and they all have to work in concert with one another. For that to happen in a game of this magnitude at this point in the season and where he is in his career is unexplainable to me. It is completely unexplainable to me, and he almost got his quarterback killed.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where franchises fall back. This is where general managers get fired, and you look back at these draft picks, and when you have 2 big-time top picks in the same draft. Now, I know the Jets have their own issues, but you had Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson selected with those 2 top picks that Joe Douglas had, and you got Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal with Joe Shane. I mean, it's a big problem. And I understand that Kayvon Thibodeau recovers a fumble, and he just right place, right time, whatever. This guy does not look like a player. I'm sorry. He looks stiff. He doesn't look like he is game-wrecking. He doesn't look like he is really all that much of a big athlete. coming off the edge. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me how this guy was picked that high as a game wrecker and looks nothing like some of these other edge rushers. And Evan Neal is the stone worst offensive lineman we've seen in a Giants uniform since Eric Flowers. I mean, that's bad. You want to set a franchise back? Whiff on those two positions. A tackle and an edge rusher. Whiff on those, and that's almost as bad as whiffing on a quarterback. And it's just, I mean, I am legitimately, like, depressed over the Giants. Like, seriously. I'm sitting there watching this yesterday going, I cannot believe we are back here. It is deja vu. And on top of it, we've got another Daniel Jones injury. I mean, this was supposed to be over with.
We kind of knew that they were going to lose. It all depends on how they lose and what it looks like.
Yeah, but
I knew it was going to be.
I
knew it was going to be a blowout. You know, we talked about it on Friday. This is going to be a blowout. This is not a great matchup for the Giants. And Tua makes some mistakes, and Pinnock gets the historic interception return for the Giants, and keeps the game somewhat close. If they don't turn the ball over at all, they may hang 70 on this defense too.
Yep.
You could see the speed difference. You could just see it. I mean, every football fan wants to turn on and watch the Dolphins because of what you saw yesterday. I mean, they're just explosive and exciting, man. I mean, they're unbelievable, is what they are.
Yeah, and they're going to be there the entire year, and that's a team that I'd love to see in Vegas this year. And it's going to be tough for them to get there. There's a lot of good teams in the AFC, but that team, if they could somehow get home field advantage, the only thing I would think about them is, is that Dolphins team, if they have to go on the road in the cold, are they going to be able to hang with, like, let's say, Kansas City, Arrowhead, going to win that game. But I would love to see them. They'd be fresh. It's fun. Tyreek Hill, Achane. I mean, they are just, the way Tua is playing, Jalen Waddle, my God. I mean, they are just so much fun to watch. And if they're in the Super Bowl in Vegas, that's about as fresh and fun as you could possibly get.
I will say that, even though their defense had a good day yesterday and they were all over Daniel Jones, I think that would probably be, their weakness would be overall if their offense isn't scoring, their defense can give up a lot of points like we saw against the Chargers, and we saw that against the Buffalo Bills. And that's the way that you got to meet that offense. You got to meet it head on with your own offense. And the Giants certainly don't possess anything remotely close to that, which is really unfortunate. I know we're going to get to the Jets, too. I just want to say this. The lack of awareness, situational awareness by their quarterback is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. It's stunning at the end of the first half. His casual nature, throwing the ball in bounds, not aware of what that – maybe he was aware. And if he was aware, it makes it even worse. And number two, the interception to Garrett Wilson at the end of the game could almost cost him the game.
Yeah,
I mean those two plays. I'm reading, and I love Brian Costello, and it's great. I mean, it's like, well, Zach Wilson did everything that he had to do. Yeah, well, he almost lost the game. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Russell Wilson, who gets the twisties in the second half of every single game, it seems like, except for the game against the Bears, that offense goes backwards in the second half, and it has all year long. And you could see that Sean Payton's pissed off at him, and he's really frustrated with him. I mean, that Zach Wilson performance yesterday was scary to me because those two big spots, he made two huge errors, and they're on him. He's the quarterback. And, they won in spite of his performance. He made a nice throw on third down, and, we want to throw bouquets to that. That's what he gets paid to do. He's supposed to do that.
And wide open, too.
Right, but that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you watch some of these other quarterbacks, I mean, like, you can't make mental errors like that and be just checked out in the game and then expect to win those games, especially against really good teams. If he does that against the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is going to make him pay. He does it against the Broncos, Russell Wilson's going to be spinning like around the top and turn the ball over himself.
Yep, and plenty more on the Jets coming up. We've got CeeLo in for Jerry. He's going to give you all the highlights and the post-game sound coming up. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan.